Okay, now let me share my screen first. Okay, is my screen visible now?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it in full screen mode now? Do you
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
do you see my screen in full screen mode?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So now we are ready. Well, this is kind of suspense every time I log into that Zoom thing, whether if things will work properly or not. So it is kind of better to ask you right away before I go to next few slides and then realize that people are seeing only my first slide. It happens a lot of time. Okay, you know who I am, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
as the first slide suggests itself, my name is Rohan Meshram, right? And we have talked for a little while in your induction program as well. Okay. So, the very first topic that I'm going to address you, this is the first time I am addressing you guys, right? So far, your technical or typical classes are concerned. बरोबर है? Okay. So, in this lecture and next few lecture as well, I am going to deal with one of the very important resource called as biological literature database. And in this biological literature database, we are going to focus on you can say a database, or you can say a gateway called as PubMed. So why I am calling it as a gateway, I will come to that in a little while. But this is one of the most important biological literature database that you will come across throughout your career. देखो, the thing is कि in your future studies, or even in your scientific career, when if you go to join any graduate school for doing your PhD here or abroad, or even if you are joining any company, wherever you go, so far you work in biological field, you cannot get rid of this database. So this resource, you will need to explore this thing throughout your career and eventually throughout your working life. So pay very close attention to whatever I am going to tell you in this lecture and next lecture. Okay. Well, it is possible that some of you might not work with that PDB database, or some of you might not work with that other databases like reference sequence database, or some other RNA database, or some protein database, right? So it is entirely possible, depending on what kind of career you choose. You might not want to deal with the other databases that has been taught to you, but so far you work in biological research, you cannot get away from this PubMed easily. Okay, तो PubMed आपको आपके लाइफ टाइम में हमेशा सर्च करना पड़ेगा. So this is very important resource. So pay very keen attention on these few slides, right? So let us begin our discussion with the very fact कि what is biological literature database. क्या होता है biological literature database first? So in order to answer this, first let us try to focus on this term called as biological literature. Now a database, you might have been already aware of, since I think you have already attended a few lectures before these online class as such, right? इसके पहले भी आपने attend किए होंगे, right? you you might have attended lectures for this Uniprot KB and everything, right? That Desai sir might have taken care of. Okay, so this database, what we call it as biological literature database, इसमें what exactly do this biological literature stand for? Okay, so this might be a very first and a very valid question. बरोबर आहे? So you might get a fair idea about the term biological, but what do this literature refer to? Literature यानी exactly क्या? Okay, so before you answer this question, you must know first what is research. Okay, तो क्या होता है बेटा research? Any brief guess? Research क्या होता है? Because it is this literature term is usually related to research. तो सबसे पहले ये जान लेते हैं कि research क्या होता है. Yes? Are you guys there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is going to be a interactive session, right? So it is not just like I'm going to go on talking and you people would go on sleeping there. I am asking very broad question, guys. You can contribute. Ki research क्या होता है? What is research?
To find something about something.
Okay, some crazy thing scientists do in the lab is called as research. Yes, to point something. Okay, so let us talk about uh, more details of biological literature first. Okay, I will come to specific definition of research in the next slide, but let us first discuss what this biological literature mean. Okay, तो बायोलॉजिकल लिटरेचर डिफाइन करने के लिए फर्स्ट लेट अस डिफाइन व्हाट इज साइंटिफिक लिटरेचर. So to define scientific literature, one might just plainly say that scientific literature is nothing but a scholarly publication that reports original, empirical and theoretical research work in the natural and social sciences, and that lies within an academic field. So this is how we typically define scientific literature, or sometimes it is simply abbreviated as the literature. Okay, so now this literature term is associated with the underlying word that you see over here called as research work. So first let us define what exactly is research. Okay, so how can we define research? Okay, research can be defined as the definition shows you on the slide, that it is scientific research that focuses on solving the problem and pursues a step-by-step logical, organized and rigorous method to identify the problems, gather the data, analyze them, and to draw valid conclusion from them. This is quite mouthful. Okay, so in this broad definition, well, I have given emphasis on a few phrases like it has to be done, research has to be done step by step, it needs to be logical, and it has got some rigorous scientific method. Okay, some method is needed to be followed, then you can say that you are performing scientific research. Okay, so let us talk about this method that is needed to be followed step by step and logically, so that you can end up saying that you have done some research. Okay, so the scientific method usually includes, like, you ask a question. Okay, well, your question can be related to your field of research. Okay, well, my field of research is generally medicinal chemistry, and I end up synthesizing, say, some compounds, and then I might ask this question, okay, if I have synthesized these chemical compounds which I think are might be having some, say, biological activity against, say, some bacteria, against, say, some enzymes or something like that, then I ask a question like, do these compound have that particular antibacterial effect or not? Okay, then I usually do the background research. Okay, once you frame a valid question, then you are supposed to do some background research. In this background research, what you usually do is that you try to gather some basic information about what is the status of whatever you are doing in the current state of art, right? You need to figure out if someone has already done this before 20 years and publish it, right? So what you would be doing in such a way is only carrying out the redundant work that would have been published quite long back, right? So you need to make sure that such thing don't happen. So in order to make sure that your research is new, what other people are doing in your related research area, you need to do some background research. Okay, once you do that background research, you then construct a hypothesis. Then in order to test your hypothesis, you design some experiment, you perform some experiment, and from those experiment you might get some data, right? And using that data, you would analyze that resulting data and draw some conclusion from that data. Okay, so your conclusion would be related to your hypothesis and eventually the question that you are asking, right? Whether my compounds do have that activity or not. Okay, so now once you are done with this, you would go on for kind of reporting your result, telling other people, okay, I have performed this experiment, and according to the data that I have generated, I conclude that my hypothesis was correct, or I conclude that my hypothesis was wrong. So this is how the scientific method is. So if you follow this scientific method to answer certain question, then you say that you are doing scientific research. Okay, so I hope you guys are in line with me. सबको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बात कर रहा हूँ?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. Please, you are very free to interrupt me. Ask questions if you don't understand things. Okay. So now let us talk about what do you do after you finish off with your experiments. Okay, in lab you have done some experiment. Okay, and you have data, you have analyzed that data. Okay, and now you are in position to share with people, right? You would like to share your findings with other people in your research area. You would like to show your findings to your peers. Peers यानी क्या? जो आपके आजू बाजू में आपके जैसे ही काम करते हैं लोग, we call them as peers. And then in order to do so, you proceed for publishing your research data, right? So once you are done with experiment, once you are in position to share with your findings, how do you share your finding? You share your findings in terms of a research paper that is needed to be published, and you need to publish your data in scientific journals. Okay, यहाँ पर देखो scientific journal को I have marked in red. Okay, so you do not publish your data anywhere else in some bimbo jimbo some any written media. You do not publish it in any written media. You publish your article or your work in scientific journal, right? You do not publish your scientific data in Times of India, बरोबर है? So you need to publish your scientific data in scientific journals. Okay, तो अभी ये जो साइंटिफिक जर्नल होते हैं, दे हैव गॉट a person who is appointed called as editor. Okay, so scientific journal क्या होते हैं? It is the place where you are supposed to share your data by publishing it in the form of an article. So you need to figure out a journal in which you would publish your data, right? And each journal has something called as regulatory authority called as editor in chief, or for time being we would only call it as a editor. And this guy editor is responsible for conducting something called as the peer review of your data. Okay, so ये जो editor होता है उसका काम क्या होता है? Whatever data that you are sending for that journal to get it published, the work of this person is to get it peer review before it gets published. Okay, so what exactly do this peer review corresponds to us now? Okay, so that might arise another question in your mind. Okay, so what peer review involves is, the very first step in your peer review is that whatever data you have generated, whatever experimentation that you have done in order to find an answer to the given question, or in order to prove or reject your hypothesis, you might have performed certain experiment, you might have generated some data. So in order to share your data, you need to publish it, and in order to publish it, you need to write a kind of essay. Okay, you might have written essay in your school or college, or even during your graduation in your English, right? So your research paper is just like a big essay that you would write. Okay, and this essay is supposed to be written in a prescribed format. It usually have, say, some usual headings that are involved in it. Your research article would include introduction, wherein you would state your concept and you would tell what things have been done in your field. Okay, then you would write materials and method, in which you would discuss, okay, this instrument I have used, this protocol I have followed, these reagents or chemicals I have used, so on and so forth. Then the next section would be for result, wherein you would discuss, okay, these are the results that I have obtained. Then there would be a section of discussion, wherein you would kind of discuss your result, their significance. You would compare it with the previously published result in a similar way. Okay, and then you would conclude. So this is a typical format of an essay, that you would write for sharing your data. And once you write it, then you need to submit that manuscript. In this way, that essay that you write in a Word file, we call it as a manuscript. Okay, so now this manuscript, you need to send it to, say, some editor of, say, some journal that you are interested to publishing with. Okay, so now when the manuscript lands up in front of that editor, he would perform a peer review. Okay, now what he would do, he would call on some specialized guys in your field. Okay, and usually these people are expert in your field, and they will take time to read your research article or your manuscript, and then they would check your article for many aspects, considering if your methodology is right or not, whatever argument that you have made, are they valid, or have you generated the right type of data, so on and so forth. And then what happens is that after a few revision of say some then those reviewer would give you comments, and you would again perform experimentation or again revise your paper, so that the editor as well as reviewers get satisfied. And once this happen, you say that your editor has accepted the paper for publication. And this calls for a big party, usually in your laboratory, once the paper get accepted. That means the editor has agreed now to publish your data in his journal. That is what it means when people say that my article has been accepted to be get published in, say, some journal. Okay, so in this way, this process is called as peer review, right? And once the paper is accepted, okay, it is usually listed in, say, some or the other database. Okay, once the peer review process is over, right, and your editor accept your article to get published, then what happens is that editor would send your article to, say, some indexing agency in which that journal is indexed, right? And once it reaches there, your abstract of your paper would be available in these databases. Okay, and here is where our story began. So PubMed is one of that database where your abstract would be made available once the peer review of your paper has been conducted and it is either published or it is on the way of publication. Okay, तो बात समझ में आ रही? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. So do you now get where exactly do this PubMed come in corresponding to, or you can say with respect to your research that you do? Okay, so once you finish it off the peer review, your paper would appear in PubMed. Okay, so that now it would be visible for a very wide range of audience, right? So in this way, PubMed is a database that would hold for citations. Citations and you can say for time being abstract of your research article. So currently, as on today, this is the statistics that I have, that I have just created before this lecture. That as on year 2020, there are some 31,563,992 this big number of abstract that are available in PubMed. Okay, so there are say some 31 millions. I'm really sorry that I did not change this 28 millions. Okay, ये 28 millions कब था? It was around in 2018. दिख रहा है यहाँ पर? 2018 में it was about 28 million. That has grown in 2020 to say some 31 million. Okay, so for time being, on an average, there are at least 31 million abstract, or you can say citations of these huge amount of biological literature that is stored in this database or this gateway called as PubMed. Okay.
Sir,
Yes, beta.
sir, what is
I
what
sorry.
is citation?
Citations is, you can, for time being, we will come to that thing later. For time being, you can consider citation as information that would need that someone would need to refer your paper. That is called as citation.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so for time being, you can say, you can call it as an abstract of your paper. So PubMed only is responsible for keeping track of the abstract of your paper. Okay, and this information, other people would need this information to refer your paper in their in their own research. Okay, so how do you cite a particular paper? I would let you know in a little while, right in this lecture after a few slides. Okay, so for time being, what is PubMed? It is nothing but a database of citation for over how many? 31 million biomedical literature articles as on year at least 2020, right? So this is a very huge resource. Well, it is not like PubMed is the only biomedical literature database. Okay, there is another biomedical literature database called as Agricola, which which keep tracks of the citations that are mostly related in the field of agriculture. Okay, and there are some another as well, but PubMed is one of the most popularly used resource for finding out biological literature. You most probably throughout your career would be browsing this PubMed database for obtaining the literature information. Okay, so now what exactly is PubMed? PubMed is a place where you can find abstract for scientific article in a field of biomedicine and health. This is what PubMed is. So what it do is that it hosts article in the field of life sciences, behavioral sciences, chemical sciences, as well as bioengineering. As you might know that PubMed is a free resource. ये क्या है? It is free of cost, it is open access. Anyone throughout the world, do not matter, till he or she, that person has got an internet resource, he is kind of capable for browsing this literature database. Okay, it is free, it is open source. This PubMed was developed and it is still maintained at the National Center for Biotechnology Information, what we call it as NCBI. And this NCBI, this PubMed is a component of National Library of Medicine, what we call it as NLM. And this National Library of Medicine is physically located at the campus of National Institute of Health, NIH, in Bethesda, Maryland, USA. Okay, so this PubMed, as you can see over here, is a component of National Library of Medicine, what we call it as NLM. Okay, so the thing is that the journal should be indexed in this National Library of Medicine in order to that article appear in PubMed. Okay, so in this way, you can say that PubMed is a gateway to search National Library of Medicine, right? So unless and until that journal is indexed in National Library of Medicine, its abstract won't be made available in your PubMed. तो PubMed में कौन से जर्नल के एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आएंगे? जो जर्नल्स आपके नेशनल लाइब्रेरी ऑफ मेडिसिन में इंडेक्स्ड है. Okay, now do you get this connection?
Yes, sir.
The journal must be indexed in National Library of Medicine in order to show its abstract in PubMed. PubMed is just a gateway to explore that National Library of Medicine. Okay, so it is not like NLM is the only indexing agency where the journals are usually indexed, right? The journals can also be indexed in other indexing agencies. Well, say for example, Science Citation Index, then you have got your Scopus. Journals are usually also indexed in these indexing agencies, right? मैंने अभी कौन सा बताया? Scopus, just like NLM, elsewhere also host its own indexing. We call it as Scopus, right? If you want to have a valid impact factor, the journal must be indexed in Science Citation Index, what we call it as SCI. Well, I would teach you all these things in your fourth semester, right? You have another course, compulsory course called as scientific writing. We would come across all these terms in more details over there, right? But for time being, your take home message is कि in order to a journal to show its abstract in PubMed, it is necessary that it should be indexed in National Library of Medicine. Okay, is it clear?
Excuse me,
Yes.
sir. Sir, so NLM again carry out the experiment to verify
No. NLM is an indexing agency, right?
Then how did they verify that it is correct or wrong?
वेरिफिकेशन का काम वो एडिटर का होता है, वो जर्नल का होता है. These guys only show the abstract. They believe that if a citation comes from that journal, that means it has been already peer reviewed.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. Shall I move on to my next slide?
Yes.
Okay. So now this was some background of PubMed as a biomedical literature database. So this lecture I would just get you familiarized, or I would just introduce you with its interface. In our next lecture, I would give you a few tips on how this PubMed is to be searched. Okay, I will show you a video. I will let you know about a few concepts so that will help you perform efficient searches. to pinpoint important research papers that you might need in your this course as well as in your further course of career, right? So, well, let us first get familiarized with this PubMed's interface. Okay, so when you will search for this PubMed as a keyword in well say in order to start out with just say Google, the first link that you would get would bring you to this user interface. Okay, so now the thing is that this PubMed interface that you would see today, well, now this is a new version. Okay, this is this is the new version of PubMed, and it has been just made compulsory, and it has been launched just an year before. सो इसके पहले का जो कुछ भी अगर आप किसी बुक में देखेंगे तो you would find this interface to be different, and that interface we used to term it as the legacy interface, or what we call it as PubMed legacy interface. Okay, so if you check out some books or say some previous tutorial that other people might have done, you might end up watching some interface that is different from what you see now. Okay, and this interface has changed quite a long time later, right? Well, now I have been working in the scientific field, well, say for at least for 15 or or so years. This is the first time that its interface has completely changed. So देखो, you will find yourself in this situation quite a lot more time in your upcoming bioinformatics career. That interface to things might change, and you would have to adopt to new interface. You would have to learn new things. You would have to get along with the new features that are usually and frequently added to these new resources. Okay, so don't stick on and remain stubborn कि नहीं मुझे यही सीखना है या मुझे I'm comfortable with this thing. ठीक है? Why? Because these computer things are changing very rapidly. It is a very rapidly evolving field. Okay, so you should be kind of have your arms wide, saying कि okay, I am ready to changes and I am very open to accept it. Right, so you need to have this attitude so far you work in computer sciences and eventually bioinformatics, right? So first thing first that you might see would be on the left hand side of your interface, wherein there is a tutorial section for you to start up. Okay, well, say for example, if you follow this link about PubMed, it gives you a kind of overview of PubMed. It would tell you what PubMed offers, what is Medline, what is PubMed Central, what is Bookshelf. That means it would give you a kind of brief idea what exactly is included in PubMed, right? So PubMed में क्या क्या होता है? All the citations that are included in Medline. You would have link for the full text article that are stored in another archive called as PubMed Central. Okay, then you would have access to a very limited set of books that is also offered through this PubMed, and this section is called as Bookshelf. Okay, so there are some books that are freely available. You can explore that and you can browse those the content of those books from PubMed as well. Okay, so this is all about your about PubMed section. In your frequently asked question and user guide, you would you would find information about how things are to be used. User guide would tell you about the features that are involved in the new version, right? And over here finding a full text would help you. If you follow this link, that the page over there would help you in finding out or locating where the full text of your article is. Okay, तो फिर से एक बार मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि PubMed में क्या होता है, only abstract are there. In order to download the full paper, or in order to download, or in order to get access to that complete research paper, you need to go to the site of that journal from where you can download those paper. Okay. Okay, then the next section that you see over here is the find section. Okay, and the very first tool that you have is something called as the advanced search. If you now click over here and follow the page, you would see something like this would appear in your user interface. Okay, so this advanced search, the tools that are present over here, well, that includes the advanced search page, and using this advanced search page, user is usually able to search for terms in a specific field. Okay, over here all fields are shown. Okay, since it is a database, it is created by fields. So whatever fields are present in this database are listed over here. If you click over here, you can see different fields. I would show all those different fields when we go for the demo, right? So what one can do is that one can search for different terms that you would type over here, and search for those specific fields as such. Okay, then what you can do is that you can combine searches to build large complex search strings. Okay, so in this way you can go on adding different search term, selecting a different search field, and in this way you can create very complex queries, and those complex queries would appear somewhere over here in this query box. Okay, you can visualize, okay, what queries have you performed, right, and how complex those queries are. And over here in this query box, you would also see how the query was translated by Pubmed. Okay, how that query was interpreted by Pubmed. Okay, and then over इसके नीचे भी एक section होता है in which you can compare the number of result for different queries, right? So if you perform query number 1, how many research article you have got? If you have performed query number 2, how many research article you have got? So in such way you can compare the number of results that you have obtained when you perform different queries in your PubMed. Okay, so this is for advanced search. This is just a kind of introduction. We would deal with it in more detail when I show you the demo, right? Okay, now next, when you follow the next link, you would be taken to some another page wherein you would be able to perform clinical queries. Okay, तो ये clinical queries में क्या होता है? This PubMed clinical queries provide specialized search for recently COVID-19 articles और clinical study category यहाँ पर आप कर सकते हैं, सर्च कर सकते हैं, राइट? क्लिनिकल स्टडी कैटेगरी यानी क्या? इफ यू वांट टू find out, say, some articles that are related to the data that is published in, say, some clinical trials, then you can perform this clinical study category right from over here, right? You can also get data or articles related to medical genetics articles, okay, so on and so forth. So previously there used to be another link for clinical trial database. Okay, so over here I don't find it. Maybe it is placed somewhere inside. You would have to explore that. But in the previous version of PubMed, there was a specific link for clinical trial database. Okay, so clinical trial database is another database that is maintained to keep track of clinical trials that are happening throughout the world. Right, so that was a kind of handy thing. I would let you know how do we browse the clinical trial databases as well. Okay, well, let us see how much time do we find to do that. Okay. Okay, so clinical queries and related articles can be found out from this PubMed clinical queries database or this tool, right? If you click this single citation matcher, you would end up with something as you see in this page. Okay, so this single citation matcher is a tool that is designed to locate a specific article. Okay, So once, well, so for example, if you remember that, okay, I want that particular article, which I remember that I have some information with me. Well, say for example, you might have information like when it was published, or what is the volume, issue, first page, or if you know the name of authors that were present in that studies, if you know the few words from that title, okay, or if you know the journal where it was published. So if you have a, you know, a cloudy faint idea about, okay, I know I have read somewhere and I now want to locate that article. If that is the case, then you should use this single citation matcher. So in order to understand these things in more detail, I think I would have to show you one of the research articles so that you would you know, appreciate what the single citation matcher means. Okay, just a minute. I would. Okay, here it is. That is present. Okay, now do you see this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
this is a typical article that you might see when your research get published. Okay, so what is where I would just let you know now. Okay, this is usually the name of journal where you know, the, can I move this thing? I don't know. Okay, yes. This is the name of journal where this particular article was published. Okay, then you have the volume. Okay, this 61 is the volume in which the article was published. It was published in year 2016. The first page of this article in this volume starts out with 86 and last page is 96. So this is a 10-page article. Okay, then you have got the first author, then you have got the last author, or what we call it as the corresponding author. Then you can also have first co-author, as you can see over here. So this is the data that if you know something about your article, you can use this data in and you can put this data into your single citation matcher, and you can end up identifying what article or what paper it was. Okay, बात समझ में आ रही है क्या आपको?
Yes, sir.
ये
Yes,
जो
sir.
बताया
Yes,
मैंने, ये
sir.
क्या है?
Yes,
This is a
sir.
research article, and this research article was published in this journal called as Computational Biology and Chemistry. This research article was published in year 2016 in 61st volume. The very first page was 86. The paper ended at the page 96. The first author is, say, some Rahul Kamble. The corresponding author is Bhaskar Davne, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this article was published in journal which is hosted by elsewhere. Okay, we will talk about those things in your fourth semester, but for time being, do you get what this journal name is, volume is, year is, page is, right? What are first author, what are last author or corresponding author? Okay, so corresponding author kaise pehchanna? If in the author list, locate the name of author which has got this asterisk. Okay, so this guy is usually called as the corresponding author. Okay, and this first author and corresponding author are important position in author list. Okay, okay. So now you know what are volumes and
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
So what is corresponding author?
Corresponding author is usually that guy who you know, who communicate with the editor of that journal. बात समझ में आ रही? Okay, so this Rahul Kamble or Rohan Meshram, well, these guys, the editor won't talk to these guys, right? It is not necessary that the editor would talk to everyone from that research article. These group would designate one person as a corresponding author, and the corresponding author will talk to that editor, and the editor would in turn talk back to him. Okay. Okay. Now let us let us go back to our discussion on this Let me keep it over here. Okay, now I can see it. Okay. So we were talking about this PubMed single citation matcher. So now if you have a faint idea about the journal in which that paper was published, the month or the year or the date if it is possible, or details like if you know the volume where it was published, the issue in which it was published, or the number of first page, or the name of any author. So if you want to limit the authors to only first author or the last author or corresponding author, if you have this intel, you can easily locate a kind of research article or citation that you need. So you can use the single citation matcher for that. Okay. Then you have got something called as e-utilities or something called as APIs. So these are linked to Antre programming utilities or what we call as e-utilities. I will talk about in details of these e-utilities in our next few slides. But for time being, e-utilities अगर आपको use करना होगा तो you need to follow this link. Then you have got this FTP protocol link over here, file transfer protocol. If you want to download the citation in bulk amount, you might want to follow this link. Okay. Then you, just like single citation matcher, you have got batch citation matcher. Okay. So a batch citation matcher is used to download, some specific citation. If you provide some details in this format, we'll say for example, journal title, then slash the year, then slash the volume, then slash first page, then slash author name, then slash whatever the key if you want to search. If you create your data in such a way and browse this button and upload your data, you can download all the PubMed IDs from over here. Okay, the accession numbers. Okay, so you can retrieve the PubMed IDs or PubMed Central IDs using this batch citation manager or matcher. Well, I don't know how people use it, but it is one of the utilities that you might follow. Maybe people might use it for performing, say, some very huge text mining project में ये चीजें काम में आ सकती है. Okay. Next, what you have is the journal information. Okay, so now I have already told you कि in order for a paper's abstract to appear in PubMed, the journal must be indexed in National Library of Medicine, right? So these journal information is also archived in NLM and it can be accessed through this journal link. Okay, so once you follow this link, and we would stick on to the same journal that I have shown you, computational biology and chemistry. तो इसमें ये journal का ये इतना सारा information रहेगा. Like what is the title abbreviation? Okay, so in research area, people do use abbreviation of the journals as well. So every time you might not see people referring this journal to as computational biology and chemistry. People might refer it as compute biol chem. Okay, and now you can see over here there are two type of abbreviation: NLM title abbreviation, ISO abbreviation. Okay, this is international standard abbreviation, right? So you might want when where this information is needed. Well, say for example, you have written some scientific paper, and when you go on referencing, the journal might ask you that you need to have this ISO abbreviation of the journal. तो आपको पता रहना चाहिए कि भाई आप जो पेपर साइट कर रहे हो उसका ISO abbreviation क्या है. So you need to go to this journal tab and use this tool, identify that journal, copy this ISO abbreviation, and then use that abbreviation in your reference list. Okay, so this is where these information or this tool comes in handy, right? The other things that are provided for these journals are, we'll say for example, titles. And this journal, it was previously published as computers and chemistry, which has got this ISSN number. But after 2003, it is now known as computational biology and chemistry. Then frequency is bi-monthly. That means this journal would publish 2 issues in a month. Okay, it is published from England. 2003 के पहले it was published by Oxford Pergamon, and now, as I have shown you, it is now published by elsewhere, right? It is published in Index. It has got 3 ISSN number. Okay, प्रिंट का ISSN नंबर अलग है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ISSN नंबर अलग है. Linking information is used for the librarian to link this journal for subscription purpose, right? So you have got different ISSN number. ISSN number are, you know, kind of accession number for the journals. Using this number, one can identify a journal. Okay, then you can say whether it is where it is indexed. Okay, indexing status, whether it is indexed in Medline or not, right? And so on and so forth. Broad subjects which this journal published this data. It kind of, these terms would tell you that this journal published data in chemistry, computational biology, and medical informatics, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this kind of information is handy when you need to figure out okay, for say your referencing, or say some different stuff. Okay, now let us talk about the e-utilities that I was talking about. Okay, e-utilities के बारे में, हाँ?
Sir, sir, I have one question.
Yes, beta. Yes, go ahead.
Sir, if we click on About PubMed,
हाँ,
we get a few things, and that includes Medline, PubMed Central, or the bookshelf.
हाँ.
So, if we consider PubMed as a class, so can we consider these Medline, PubMed Central, and the bookshelf as its subclasses?
No, it is kind of it. These are the things that the PubMed offers. Okay, PubMed offers data from Medline. PubMed offers data from PubMed Central. It offers data from bookshelf also.
Mhm.
Okay,
Uh,
so this is the place wherein you can get data from Medline, you can get data from PubMed Central, you can get data from bookshelf. This is what it means.
Okay, sir. And sir, Medline is the one which collects all the abstracts.
Yes, it is an indexing agency.
Okay.
The journal need to get indexed in Medline.
So, sir, just to be precise, when someone says that where the extracts are usually stored, so can we say that instead of saying PubMed, can we say Medline is the one?
Yes.
Okay.
And PubMed is a kind of interface, or say gateway, which shows what is present in Medline.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
ठीक है. Now let us talk about, please let me know the time, right? Because I would go on talking this way for, I can do this all day, as Captain America would say. But there might be other people who might be waiting for the lecture to end so that they can, proceed for their lecture as well. Okay, so please let me know if we are running out of time, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how much time do we still have? Oh, it is already 11 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm really sorry. Huh? We would continue our discussion in our next lecture. Right?
Okay, sir.
We will talk
Thank
about
you,
these e-utilities
Yes,
and
sir.
everything in our next lecture. Okay, I hope you guys are learning new things.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Now I'm stopping to share this thing. Good. Okay. So see you guys. I think your next lecture is conducted, I suppose. Abhijit is supposed to take it, right? What is your next lecture? 1 o'clock. Abhijit?
BSc, sir. I think
Urmila ma'am.
Urmila ma'am.
Okay. Then maybe I will ask Urmila madam if she wants to continue with this meeting. Huh? Just a minute.
Sir, she has lecture from 11:30.
Okay. Anyhow, now I have stopped sharing it. Okay, we'll continue our discussion in our next lecture, right? No issue with that.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.